This podcast represents the opinions of Katie Allen, PA, and guests of her show. The content is for informational purposes only and in no way sets up a patient relationship. Consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Now, here's Katie Allen.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Feeling Good Naked, the podcast geared towards women over the age of 40 and things that we can do to help us live life a little easier, be a little healthier, and all the things that I have with us today. Kristy Basinger, who is a physical therapist and owns practice of Gainesville Physical Therapy in Gainesville, Georgia. She's been a physical therapist for over 30 years. She's going to talk to us today about the aging body, the things that we can do for our body to prepare it to be its most functional in the current state of aging and for our future bodies with aging. What brings you to this point where we're even having this discussion?
Let me just start by saying it is an exciting time to be a woman.
Amen.
There is so much information out there. I think it's just trying to figure out how do we navigate all of it. So here I'm today just specifically talking
Thankfully, there's
about,
even conversations even happening about women.
Oh my gosh,
at this point.
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I love to nerd out. You know, there's just a lot of information. And so this is my little compilation of the things that I've been reading and listening to over the last years.
Now, let me ask about you and how you got here. I think of you as an athlete in general. I think I always call you my D1 athlete. And I say you're D1 strong,
D1
maybe because
strong.
I'm not. So what kind of is your background, even starting growing up with your background as far as activities, athleticism, currently?
Always was in sports. I played field hockey, soccer. I grew up outside of Chicago, so I did some downhill skiing and, just dabbled in different sports, but always have loved sports. Went to college at St. Louis University where I played field hockey. And I just think back to those days, and I remember the coach saying, okay, you guys need to go to the weight room. And so my roommate and we went to the weight room, and, here we are, 19-year-old girls in a weight room that was,
what do we do? Yeah.
I mean, and the baseball team's in there, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know the first thing about
you don't even
lifting
know
weights.
which weight to go to or what machine or how it works.
And, we just needed to sign our name.
That was before YouTube, too.
Oh my gosh,
before YouTube says that.
I just think back, man, if we could have started lifting weights, and doing resistance training back then, it would have been so incredible. So I want people to take advantage of this time now in their lives when we do have all this information versus being the 19-year-old girl walking into a weight room that you get looked at because you're a girl in a weight room. It's just such a more supportive.
I'd say less of an outlier now.
Yes. It's more accepted. Yeah. So then as I started practicing and seeing women specifically over their years, and then they went into research like why are women at this age starting to have frozen shoulders and these myofascial injuries and tendon injuries. And, there has to be something more. It was called, when we first started with adhesive capsulitis, when there wasn't a reason for a frozen shoulder, which is the same thing as adhesive capsulitis, they would just call it idiopathic adhesive capsulitis. Well, now we know why.
Yeah.
That these shoulders are freezing up.
And you also talk about, because we're primarily speaking about women, but just that we aren't like small men.
Absolutely.
Not to compare, it's really a separate.
And finally being researched as separate.
Yeah.
Not just lumped in. I mean, we're so physiologically different from men. And there's finally being this great research to show what really happens. And not only research to show the difference between men and women, but the difference in women as we age.
Yeah.
And how we can adjust to make ourselves the best. I always say a big thing is quality of life versus quantity. Things can happen. I mean, my dad died 13 years ago from leukemia. He was fit as a fiddle.
Yeah, he was.
But how can we make our quality of life be the best it can?
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to emphasize to people. Of course, longevity. Yes, that's lifespan, but it's also quality of lifespan.
Yeah.
What we do now directly impacts what our body is going to be in 20 years. So you think all of a sudden you hit 20 years from now, you're like, oh man, I wish I had started doing that 20 years ago.
Well, we still can do the things and build the muscle.
Yes.
I'm seeing memes about it. It's saying I'm working out now for my old lady
body.
whatever it's saying. And now there's part of me that is like, I'd like to look good now and perform a little bit right now. But I like that part because it's solidifying the fact that if we want to be functional and moving later, we have to start working at it right now. Is that what you're?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. This is the time we build that muscle. There's so many benefits of having muscle. Strength training benefits. It's lean mass. A lot of people think about muscles, but your muscles affect your bones. You don't want to have chalk for bones when you're 70 years old and you trip over the edge of the carpet and now you have a distal radius fracture or you break your hip or all these things. We want to build. This is the time we want to build our bones and we want to feed our bodies also, so we can go into the whole protein.
So when you're talking about the strength training, and I know earlier you're talking about being a 19-year-old walking into the gym with resistance training. If somebody says resistance training and then they say strength training, is that the same as like lifting the weight, or is that like resistance like with bands, or is it all together? Does it matter?
No, I love that, Katie. I think that this is an area that we just truly, what is resistance training?
Yeah.
And in the definition, resistance training and strength training can be used interchangeably.
Okay.
So we can start with that. If you hear someone talk about strength training, same thing as resistance training. But the definition is any exercise that causes our muscles to contract against a force or weight. So any exercise that causes muscles to contract against a force or weight. Now that weight can be our body.
Okay.
That's resistance training. You've got body weight. You start with, you can go to a nursing home and talk about people just getting up out of a chair 5 times in a row. That's resistance training.
Okay.
You can talk about going into a plank. And this is really important because you do want to start. I absolutely would never want people to start just going to a gym and slinging heavy weights around.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's a recipe for disaster.
So then you just start slower.
Start slow. You've got resistance bands. You've got your body weight. You're looking at a 6 to 8 month process before you're really thinking about lifting up a heavy weight. So there's so many things that have to come
never
before.
Started and they're starting in their 40s. So let's say 50, 60, anytime they're starting, they would start slower.
Absolutely.
Like lower resistance, whether that's
body weight.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the other thing is the consistency. If you ask me the number one thing, what's going to make the difference? It's consistency. It's doing this day in and day out, week after week, month after month. So you make a plan for yourself and you put it on your calendar like you would an appointment, like you're going to go to the doctor.
That's a good point.
So you get on your calendar, you look to start at 2 days a week. The research is showing 2 to 3 days a week.
Wow.
The other thing too is exercising with intention. Yeah. So we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but how are we going to best use our time? Because we're all busy. Yeah. Like it is a busy world. And so if I can maximize my 20 minutes versus, we're going to go into this, but versus 20 minutes on a treadmill. Yeah. The gains from 20 minutes of resistance training versus 20 minutes at a low pace on a treadmill, like you can't even compare them. Okay. So that's the other part. I really want to encourage people to really exercise with intention and maximize the amount of time they have. Right. Now, I love a good walk, and walking is very important. So I will never tell you, don't do this or don't do that, because we all need to be moving our bodies. So no movement of our bodies is detrimental. Right.
But we need to be doing the resistance training for the future. Yes. Of that part is what I hear you saying. So they could start at least 2 to 3 times a week, it sounds like.
Yes, times a week.
And you had mentioned, who is the person you had mentioned you like, the Sims?
Yeah, Dr. Stacy Sims. I've read a lot of her stuff. She has a lot of good research. That's one of the things I really look for when I'm looking at sources, is who is this source and are they credible, and is there research? I feel very strongly about that research part. It's a big component. Yeah. And this is legitimate information. So when you choose your people, think about the people who have research behind them.
What do you think about for the person that's already in shape and then, trying to push themselves a little bit too? So what do you think about like the HIIT training, yay or nay? Just from your own gathering. You can change your thoughts tomorrow, but just for now.
Yeah, so I think that you're looking at the HIIT training being a part of your program.
That makes sense. So in addition,
Exactly. As we reach into those upper 40s, starting into the 50s, looking at your cardio, we need cardio.
Yeah.
And so you look at your cardio being more of a sprint interval training where it's very uncomfortable. This is, I've recently really adopted this in my exercise program. I'm like, okay, whose decision was this? Because
I don't like uncomfortable.
this is really hard.
Yeah.
So, but you're looking at, let's just use an example of an interval, 30 seconds as hard as you can go. And then recovering for a minute and a half to 2 minutes.
So like a run would be one example of 30 seconds?
You can do a treadmill. You could do a bike.
Okay.
You could do a rowing machine. Anything that you are going to be working as hard as you possibly can for 30 seconds.
This is why I didn't like having a trainer.
Yeah.
Because I just remember this person going like, you got to go really hard on this bike. And I was thinking like, fuck you.
That's really uncomfortable.
It's just, it was like, I want to throw up.
Yes.
And then it's CrossFit was like that too. It's those 30 seconds, but that sounds like that's what we need.
Yes.
So you go 30 seconds hard.
Yep. And then you can do, like 5 sets of that.
Okay.
Because you'll think, 5 sets, like, I got that. But when you're at set number 3, you're thinking, man, I've got to do 2 more of these.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not talking about like, this is hard. Like, it has got to be as hard as you can go.
Yeah.
So
was it Muhammad Ali used to say that you can't start counting the reps until it hurts? I might be having that wrong, but he said it better than that. But it was just it's something like it until it hurts. And that's kind of not what I've been doing. So maybe I need to start thinking about this.
It's pretty interesting when you do that. Now, of course, you don't walk away like, hey, that's my workout.
Yeah.
Maybe you did like a nice bike ride for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then that's how you ended your ride.
Yeah.
So I think this, sometimes we get in the mindset of this all or none.
Yeah.
But I really like to ride my bike. I want to ride at a nice gradual, like zone 2 pace for 20 or 30 minutes. But I'm going to finish, or maybe I put the sprint training in the middle of the workout.
Okay.
So be creative with it. And it doesn't have to be just that. Like, okay, I'm just getting on here because you've got to have a little warm up. I mean, we can't just like jump on.
How long should, that's a good point though. How long should somebody warm up?
Yeah. So a great warm up. I mean, you're looking at, getting things moving, a nice solid 10 minutes, 10-ish minutes just to move through, the different motions.
Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I grab my coffee and I just start
and then
moving through the house first. So I could do like warm up. Warm up.
And that's the other thing too. I mean, is your body ready to take on that load? Yeah. And I think that's you bring up an important point because that has to be figured into your time. You think, okay, well, I have 30 minutes to exercise. Well, 15 of that could be just warming up and then you do your 15-minute workout. So add in that warm-up time. Now, of course, if we're exercising later in the afternoon, we've been up moving around, we've gone to work. So you're a little bit more warmed up versus just like putting your feet on the ground out of bed and then jumping on, the treadmill or something like that. So, they talk about this sprint interval training because you have metabolism, you have your central nervous system. We are a complex machine. Our bodies are very complex.
So it needs almost the stress.
It needs that stress. Exactly. That's where that central nervous system. And you can get by your 20s and 30s. You run, you go for long runs, maybe grab a few weights. You're doing 3 sets of 10, all that kind of stuff.
But you hit your 40s.
But man,
and then
watch
you hit
out.
your 50s. You better start doing some shit on purpose.
That's right.
It's not going to... Sorry, I think that's what happens. You just have to that's the part with intention.
Yeah, and that, mid-30s, that's when you have changes with, estrogen, progesterone, and that's when that power-based training really needs to come in and changing up how are you doing cardio and what is your heart rate. I'm a big heart rate monitor person. I feel like it's a great feedback system. And
you use your heart rate monitor, not to go off on that too far, but just I do like hearing you talk about that in the past, but just you use your heart rate monitor to kind of see where you're at and see where to push yourself in your workout for the day.
That is true because you can, have you adequately recovered?
Yeah.
I mean, we can go off on the whole recovery tangent.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's going to dictate what we're doing with our bodies on that given day also, because that's the other thing. As we get older, it takes longer to recover.
Yeah. That's stupid, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I always say if I could harness recovery, I would be, on an island as a billionaire somewhere. Because I mean, that whole industry and trying to figure out how to maximize recovery so that you can keep performing. That's very interesting to me. So we have so many great tools. So I think a heart rate monitor is one of those great tools. It'll help you gauge where you are, and it's a great feedback for our exercise. I mean, you can do pure heart rate training, you know, when you talk about your zones and zone 1, zone 2 and 3 and 4. And if you really want to know, am I going all out? Look at your heart rate, because there's a whole formula.
Because if that's a weight, you can't really lie to yourself then.
No, you have hard facts there.
Because I'm doing a lot of morning stuff. I'll use like this quarter of a
Get some
Alani dose. I'm
caffeine
not telling
going.
anybody that that's what's healthy. I'm just telling you that's what I do. But that has a bigger dose of caffeine. Probably, I think it's 200 milligrams maybe for like a full dose maybe. So, you know, it's probably like 50. But how do you do that? How do you put that into the equation?
Too.
Or do you just kind of not do that?
And if you do that every time, then that's part of you. You know, that's the consistency.
I think I just have permission to do it every time.
But the thing is, there will always be variables. Did you sleep like crap the night before? Yeah. You know, did you stay up too late? Have you traveled and now you're recovering from, you know, changing time zones? You know,
that's like the Whoop watch. You know, if you were talking about Whoop, I don't have one.
I don't have one.
And I've thought about it, but I am concerned that it's going to say that every day that I am not ready to work out because I'm not rested or whatever. And I was like, you know, I don't know. What's it going to say? No, you haven't done it right, like over and over. I mean,
no, but I think it'll at least give you a reason why. I feel like I'm running through concrete. Well,
but this next that actually, I do like that idea.
It's kind of nice.
I might be buying one later.
Not really. I don't want to say it's an excuse, but it is another way.
Explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explanation. I like it.
I like that part because it's what you just said. Sometimes you really get up and you get moving, do the same workout, and your mind is saying like, I just did this thing like 2 weeks ago and I was feeling great, and now I am not. And maybe it's because I'm not recovered from the run that I had just done, or
much. There's so many factors.
Sure.
Please don't let that discourage you.
Yeah,
we're all going to have bad days. We're all going to have days where we just think, what has happened to my body? It can be very discouraging. So it's okay. You can take a step back and just make that day where you're just like, okay, it just wasn't there today. But then you get back up and you go back the next day. What I always say is exercise never gets easier. Yeah. You just get fitter.
Oh, that's good.
And you just get stronger. So if it ever is easy, then you're probably like, maybe I need to think about what I'm doing here.
So you had mentioned a little bit of the cardio part. So we should have some of that in there for overall health, I would think, and just ability to get through the day. But some of the things that I've read about areas which have the longevity in their communities, sometimes they focus really on just they're moving all day. You know, like they're not really even they're doing like the resistance type things, whether it's almost like farming or something. And then they're just moving all day, but they're not necessarily saying, hey, this thing is cardio. It's just that I keep going throughout the day.
But they're still moving.
They're still moving.
So that's where the intention comes in.
Okay.
And that's a great point. You know, you can say, well, I'm walking around. I could say, well, I'm walking around a clinic all day. But my heart rate, then that heart rate portion comes in, and have I pushed my body? Now, is it better to be walking around all day versus sitting on the couch? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in order to really gain the benefits from training, you have to push into an area.
Because we need that muscle in order to support the bones, and then and then like you had talked about the neuroplasticity of trying to avoid or decrease our dementia risks and things like that.
And your body, it gets stronger. It becomes able to manage stress better. It's just not your physical body. It's your mind, your drive to succeed. There's so many things linked to strength and the cardiac output.
Now, on recovery, are we still in the camp of thinking that we're supposed to stretch afterwards, or yes or no, or what?
So yes, definitely. So you're looking at what you call your dynamic warm-up is going to be before you exercise. So that when you talk about dynamic warm-up, that's moving your body through the motion.
So that's that funny stuff that we do
like
that I love. Like knee.
Yeah, exactly.
Kick back, all before we're starting. So those are the things where you're kind of like getting things moving into whatever activity, depending on the sport.
So funny story about that too. You know, we were into rowing a lot, and my dad would do these squats, and he would do all these. He was doing a dynamic warm up before anybody even knew what a dynamic warm up were, and we would just laugh about it because he'd be over there doing his thing, and we would be static stretching, which now we know with research is totally the wrong thing.
He's like, you idiots.
Yeah, exactly. He's like way ahead of his time. Yeah. So yes, your static stretching, which is your typical like you're gonna sit and stretch your hamstring or your calf. That's all going to be done after your
when you're warmed up.
Correct.
Kind of, so that we get the gain for stretching. Mm-hmm. So that helps us with the muscle to help it gain further flexibility.
Exactly. Right? And there is a study that shows a 30% decrease in power output when you static stretch before your exercise.
No way.
Yeah. So, you see these people holding stretches, like when I'm, running Peachtree or something, I see these people static stretching. I'm like, oh, you just knocked down your power by 30%.
Yeah. So. When I know somebody's been taught something is when they do that scoop thing with the hamstring. You got your foot up, and I'm like, I don't really know. It looks like Mr. Miyagi to me. And I'll go to do it. I go to do it because I'm like, they know, and I keep seeing them doing it. I'm like, oh my God, that hurts. So I was like, I need to do more of it. So we need to be doing the stretching afterwards. Yes. I keep thinking I need to add in, I don't know if it's yoga or something, but I need something.
Mobility. So that's the mobility, and here we are again. We're talking about, you have this exercise, this spectrum of exercise. Yeah. So you have mobility, you have strength, you have cardio. I mean, all of it's good. You also have long walks with your friends. Yeah. Like there's your social connections. We need social connections. I mean, that's been
we're all walking around right now with weighted vests on.
Well, we'll talk about that. But
oh, good. That is a good subject.
It's interesting. So I'm still kind of looking into that because I'm, I work with spines through my day, and I think about an aging spine, and then you throw on, 15, 20 pounds on an aging spine. Yeah. And, I don't know about that.
I just have had one for years. I worked out with it forever with a Jen Copper who I used to work out with. And my heart rate would get up higher. Absolutely. Mine's pretty light. I think mine's only like 8 pounds, actually.
I think that's, you're looking at that better. And you have the muscle to support
currently,
that. Okay, versus someone who's just been a casual walker, let's say.
Well,
and then all of a sudden they just throw on a weighted vest. It's just like starting strength training and lifting heavy weight before you've developed your muscle column, for the last 6 to 8 months. So again, weighted vest could be something.
I mean, my vest is really just a matter of vacation where I ate too much. I mean, really, it's the difference on, if I'm leaner and I put the wet vest on, it's really me at my heaviest. And then maybe, I was getting some, but I think part of it is you put the vest on right now and it's legit like you're
like, look at me. Yeah. I'm doing this.
It's like, and you're telling yourself that you're like, I got to do this for myself. And you know what I'm thinking? I think that a lot of ladies, what you don't know, family, is I need to go put this vest on. I need to be away from y'all because so now you can even take it off once you get out the door.
Yeah.
You just got to put it on and go for your walk. And then we all look at each other and go, you're in the club.
That's right.
You're in the vest club.
She's in the vest club.
But that makes a good point about that the spine may not always like that.
Well, and how much muscle, what is your base?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talk about, your base strength, before I lifted heavy, I mean, it was probably a 5-year process before, I was like, okay, now I'm ready, I can start lifting heavy. Now it doesn't have to be that long. It was a process for sure and a journey, but minimum 6 to 8 months with someone who can really guide you and teach you the movement and make sure that you're in a good position and supported position. But it doesn't have to be something fancy in a gym or with a trainer. I love all those things. Those are bonuses. I mean, a great trainer is phenomenal. But I mean, I sent my daughter to college with 2 15-pound dumbbells. Yeah. And
but she has your guidance to know where to start.
Okay, that's
so
fair.
The real part is I think sometimes if somebody doesn't know where to start, sometimes you go to like a gym with a class just to move because you're like, I don't even know.
And that's true. Yeah, you start on the machines.
Like, because her daughter's mom is a physical therapist, so she knows what to do with 15 pounds.
Like, here's your resistance bands, here's your weights, have a good college
It's funny, I just popped another resistance band the other day, and I was thinking, I should ask Kristy to bring me some resistance bands.
I love resistance bands.
I love them too. I pop them a lot, though.
They're so good.
Or they untie on me and slap me.
So good. Be careful of your
But
eyeballs.
you're right, especially with the internet. If somebody feels comfortable using the internet, there's so much available. And I love that sometimes like people can cue you and tell you these things.
Yes.
I'm in beginner yoga, which means I don't do it enough and I need to do more of it, or something like that. There's a
Your mobility.
girl, it's like yoga with Adrienne or something.
Oh, there's so many good people out
she's
there.
a good cuer for somebody like me that doesn't know.
Yeah,
Peloton
and it may
has
be
some.
her voice.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have to, you know, I can't listen to some podcasts just because of the voice. You know?
So this is true. Yeah.
You find your people that you feel supportive.
Feel like that about my voice.
No way.
But you're right. So you find sometimes the thing that works for you.
And the beauty of, you know,
stick with
Instagram and internet is because we have these resources at our fingertips. Just
Well,
like
I'm laughing
me.
a little bit right now about weights because I'm thinking about like you and Martha lifting and me lifting. and I would be like, I think I could pick up y'all's weight with two hands.
They're so funny. And that's the other thing too. Like, I love you brought that up because
It's
do
true.
not compare.
It's so
Like,
individual.
A weight's a weight. It doesn't matter if it's the person, you know, and she mentioned Martha. Like, Martha was
She's
my
so strong and
encouragement to start lifting
Yeah.
heavy, you know.
Yeah.
And so I look at, like, I could never lift what she lifts, you know, and so don't compare yourself to others either. You know, you're 10 pounds, that's heavy for you. And that's a great point because it's like, Kristy, well, what weight do I start with?
Yeah.
So you look at being able to lift that weight for 6 reps.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe you could squeak out another 2 reps on that, but it should be difficult.
I need to get
6
heavier
reps.
weights is what this stuff tells me.
Well, you know,
that's the real part,
this is
too.
the information,
Yeah.
you know, and
What a
this
cool
is
time,
what's
like you said
fun.
earlier. What a cool
Yeah.
time that we're in right now where they're encouraging it. Whereas
Yes.
people in the generations, I feel like before, and so in our aging population ahead of us, they're ahead of us, I guess we're aging. But it's, I feel like they really were like, don't lift the heavy weights. We don't want to bulk. Or, you know, there's just so much
Yes,
negativity
the
around
bulk,
it. And now it's a little like, okay, just being really honest, I know we're all trying to work out for, again, our older bodies, but, you know, like when I did CrossFit, I think the girls that are doing CrossFit are just look badass in their bodies being so strong. I just love it. Except I don't want mine to do that. And
Everybody
when I
has
did
their
that,
thing, right.
I was so tight. I just didn't utilize the time. I needed extra time to do more stretching. My white coats didn't fit anymore. Like I just was like, I can't afford this because I can't fit my clothes.
So we all have different goals.
Figuring it out, yeah.
And that's why you just use the term resistance training.
Good point.
Okay, so we're not talking about hypertrophy. We're not talking, you know, it's just resistance training. You could go down this avenue for, you know, hours and hours because there's so much detail in resistance training. So what we're talking about today is just general, where do I start? I want to just lift some weights. And then you can go down that path if you want to and figure out all the nuances of, you know, specific muscle groups and training heavier weights and hypertrophy and all those kinds of things. But this is just your basic, I want to get a couple of dumbbells at home and what do I do with them?
Yeah.
So you know,
you could do a lot with
a
just
ton.
like you said, body weight earlier, because I know even on the road.
And you can mix it in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to all be weights.
And a good playlist.
I mean, awesome. So you can have your body weight, you know, planks, and then you can do push-ups, and then you get up and you do some flies with maybe 15-pound weights because that's what you can do for 6 reps.
Yeah.
And you're looking at about 3 sets of 6 reps these are heavy. You know, when you get to the end of that 6 reps, you're like, whoa, this is hard. And then then you maybe go back down into some body weight or maybe some body weight squats. And then you pick that weight up again and you do another 6 reps.
So you can use the in-between, like the light thing, like the squats or something like that. Just air
to
squats
take
or
your
whatever, to just a little break, but you're still moving.
And the other thing about women, they recover so much more efficiently. We're just more efficient, you know?
Okay.
And so our recovery time, it's shorter than men's recovery time.
Interesting.
So that's the other thing is if you're following a plan that's geared toward, you know, it's just this generic plan, it's going to be geared towards men. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to take as much time to recover. So when you have the man who's taking, you know, maybe another minute to recover, we didn't need that minute.
Yeah.
So number one, that's going to make our workout shorter.
Yeah.
Because we have, you know, a short amount of time. So that, you know, it's realizing the difference between men and women. Then, so you're mixing this up. And I think the mindset of having to be in a gym, having to, use a bar. No, it's just starting somewhere. And then you decide your journey after that. It's that 6 to 8 months of just starting out, and then you can decide where your journey is going to take you after that.
So Stacey Sims, I think I've listened to some of her stuff actually, but like she's kind of said some negativity about some HIIT training like Orange Theory and stuff like
because
that.
Because I think sometimes you can get into that single mindset. Yes, you get the cortisol situation, and we do. I mean, our bodies, as in our 40s, you're going to send that signal to put on visceral fat. And, we all say, well, why I weigh the same, but I have this belly pooch,
I say some of the heaviest I ever was when I was doing ultras. And it wasn't the whole time.
Absolutely.
It would go up and down.
Was that cortisol? Weird. Because of the stress.
Yeah, my body is like, screw you, quit doing this.
And that's the other thing. We need to see, like, our bodies are all different. Like, what really makes us feel good? I did one marathon.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt horrible.
Yeah.
I was my heaviest. I practically ruined. It was terrible. But it took me weeks to recover.
But the thing is I like that. I would turn around and sign right up. I mean, I did it for years like that, but I was always injured. I was just. And when I say I was injured with like. I was injured, but I was so, I'm mental, right? So like I'm mental, like I gotta go work out no matter what. So like running, I would like drag one leg for like the first mile or two until it kind of warm up. And I swear half the time you have like 5 injuries, you only just feel the one that hurts the worst.
The worst. What's screaming the loudest.
That one finally gets better, and then you find out you have like other injuries, and then you're like, well, I don't know why I have an injury. It's because you're hanging out with other people doing the same shit, and everyone else is going, y'all, I don't know that you're supposed to naturally go do that. And then I'm like, but there are tribes and stuff that do that, but apparently if you really look their stuff up, they really live until their 30s or 40s. Like
genetics, like if you see myself and Katie, our body types are completely different.
She's the one.
I wasn't meant to run marathons.
I was the team manager.
But I love to lift, and I love to do, shorter stuff. Like I loved, back at 45, I could do the half Ironman. Was I ever going to do a full Ironman? No way, man. I knew I couldn't run that marathon, but I love the half.
If you wanted to, your brain was just smart enough to go, I don't really want to.
Yeah, and my body's like, how long do you want to do this for? That's the other thing. Like, we want our bodies to perform for us for lots of years.
True. That's the other thing with the breakdown of the body. I think that's a good point, is because I like doing long distance training and stuff, partly because of what it does to the mind. You get to that breaking point, you have to push through it, and you could do that though, even in resistance training. But quite frankly, I did enjoy, that ultra type stuff because of the push through. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I think that a lot of times folks are hanging around other people. And one thing that I picked up, at least in several longevity conferences that I've gone to, and then speaking with multiple of those folks, is when you get into certain distances and things, you're really doing a major breakdown on the body. Not just the muscle itself, but the entire like all of your systems. And so our brains think it's healthy, but once we get to a certain spot, we might be passing the point of health, and now you're really doing a breakdown. Whether if you consume too much crappy
detrimental
food, or if you're alcohol, drugs, whatever, it's the problem is you're causing all these free radicals, right? When we do major exercise, there is an amount of free radicals that get released.
Absolutely.
And what point is too much? I don't know.
And it's difficult. And I think that's where it comes in. That's where you really have to take a step back with the aging body too. I want to feel good.
Yeah.
But I also want to feel good 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And they have done research, running doesn't increase your chance of osteoarthritis unless you've had a previous like ACL repair or something like that. That's a little asterisk. But, we're learning so much about the body, but your body. That's the other thing. Like, your body better than anybody else. And I'll tell my patients, they'll tell me things. I'm like, yeah, that's true because your body.
That's true.
And so I will listen to them. Whether I think that's true or not, I'm going to listen because they live in that body every single day.
When we kind of transition into the injuries, we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but like, what are the things that you see in aging? We'll just speak generally. Anybody listening, they might be outliers with athleticism and things like that. But in general, things that we do tend to see as people go 40s, 50s, whatever, like things that they can do to prevent injury. I know one thing that probably over the last year or so, I've done a lot less loading my back for like squats and doing a lot for holding the dumbbells. And I don't know if that's necessary or not, but it was just one of those things that I
felt
kinda
right
read.
to you.
Yeah. And so the downside is I can't lift as much weight where it feels like I can't. And I'm not sure, but those kind of things, like what should we be looking to transition or change? I see the need for resistance training. In fact, I just saw something where there's some research that had come out in the past where we really didn't think that we could improve the bone density, but even through resistance training with people who have never done it before, older women who were in this study, that they were seeing some changes. And I think sometimes it's always nice to see that study and then others to come, but also maybe that helps us with balance and things like that, so you're not getting the falls or whatever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But what are some things, like, again, the shoulders, we're talking about seeing things like adhesive capsulitis, and that, can we prevent that? Or
so that's a great
estrogen therapy
question.
maybe?
And yeah, I mean, you can pull in all the, research from the hormone therapy that is very at the forefront right now, adding in estrogen, progesterone, that's definitely an area that...
And I've got an upcoming podcast. I'll get to talk with somebody about that, so we'll get to add on to this.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And this is a great point. You are bringing in... health is so multifaceted. I mean,
True.
you could sit here and do 800 podcasts about diet. You can talk about sleep. You can talk about hormones. You can talk about resistance training / cardio. It's this wheel, and all of it is important.
Yeah.
But of course, now the other thing is we can get really overwhelmed by that. So
No shit. You can start feeling FOMO. I go to a longevity conference. And they're talking about taking. I know people who've been studying this stuff. I don't. All of us are feeling like this. So you start studying about longevity, how we're all going to feel better as long as possible, and then you're like, wait, what supplement did they talk about? And then you listen to something else, and you're like, what supplement did they talk about? I said in the morning for a little while, I was taking so many supplements, I was full before I could eat my food.
I drank so much
and I was
water.
like, oh my God. I was like, you're drinking so much water. I'm like, I got to pee. My throat is sore. And then I'm like, wait. And then they're like, wait, you got to take this one too.
Yeah.
And wait, if you don't have this, and I'm like, you guys, after a while, they're like, stress is bad. I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you what I'm stressed out about. I'm stressed out about what I'm missing out on. I got FOMO like crazy. And who has time to go to sleep if I'm trying to do all this stuff?
Your sleep preparation. Is my room the right temperature? Did I get off my devices in time?
I get off my devices?
Did I take my magnesium glycinate? I mean, how many nights have I hopped out of bed because I forgot to take the magnesium glycinate?
This is the difference on how you react to this stuff, and if you're into health, I think, is if you live in southern states versus if you live in Colorado or something like that, because they took a gummy and they don't give a shit. They're like, y'all can keep worrying for me. I'm asleep already.
But yeah, getting back to injuries, they're gonna happen. If you are active and you are pushing your body, there will be a point where you will have some sort of nag, strain. You fell while you were running, whatever it is, there will be an injury. The biggest thing is, how do you get through that injury?
Yeah.
So let's start with, when you are recovering from an injury, you still need to feed your muscles and you need to feed your body while you're recovering from that injury.
How do we feed it?
Yeah, so you're looking at people talk about protein. Our muscles need protein. People tend to cut back because they're not exercising, but this is not the time to cut back on your diet.
Because of the injury.
Because of the injury, I can't move, I'm going to gain weight, but you still need to feed your body with that 0.8 grams to 1 gram.
Feed it with protein, not cake.
Yes. So I always say, if you're going to bring your neighbor the meal for their recovery, bring them a plate of baked chicken and veggies versus a plate of brownies. Okay. Because that's what that's what your body needs while it's recovering from an injury. Let your body recover from the injury. I am so guilty of this. I've done this. I'll think, oh yeah, okay, I only needed a couple of days. And that's not what I tell my patients, but then I hold myself to the standard of, I need to be running next week.
We would not be exercising consistently if we were not already a little on the crazy part of this.
Crazy.
So, I feel like that is, but I will say this, I have heard, and not all general practitioners, but a multitude of folks that go, your knee is hurt, and so you need to rest, and so you don't do anything. Now, if it's you and I, we're looking for every possibility to see how we can move and not hurt that thing if we're supposed to, but So my brain goes, okay, I can't run right now, so I got to do something.
Right.
So
Am I
going
going to get in the pool? Am I
But I wanted to bring
yeah.
that up because I
Yeah.
feel like, especially with aging,
Yes.
where if we take 3 days down,
Oh,
we're still
man.
moving at work or something like that. But if somebody, to me, as I watch people even 60s, 70s or so, if you're not moving and now you've been used to exercising, if there's any way you can find a different form of movement,
Yes.
it's so important, because I think 2 weeks or so and you can all of a sudden have a whole new
man.
slew of issues.
You can lose a pound of muscle
That quickly.
like in a couple of weeks. I mean, it is so important to find other ways.
They have to get the nutrition in, which is primarily protein focused. I don't know about you. In order for me to get, so you're saying 0.8, what was that?
0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of
So-
body weight.
So like for myself, good, that matches what I've been doing. So like I always say, I try to aim for about 125 to 130. I understand that whole foods are probably
Yes.
the healthiest to go for most of the time. I cannot meet my protein goals without a certified chef, which I don't have, or like I will supplement with things that are packaged. And I say that to not tell you anybody that that's necessarily the healthiest thing to do, but it is what allows me to reach the protein goals. And I like that they've been making more stuff. So there's always, to me, been like the protein shakes and protein bars, and they've almost always just been sweet stuff. And I get a sweet tooth, but I am savory. But now, like the protein chips, so I can get 19 grams of chips. I just like to say these little things that we're all doing, but like, the Quest, like a bag of chips, I get 19 grams out of that. And then if I eat 2, because one's not enough of those tuna packets, they're like 15 grams a piece, I think. So,
It adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, that I think. So when folks are like, well, I can't get it in, I'm like, well, try.
That's
or
the best
these
thing you can
days,
do.
and you can Google something. I still have to work at it. Like,
right. And every day, again,
Yeah.
we go back to this all or none.
Yeah.
Are you going to hit that goal every single day? No, but you're going to stay consistent with it and you're going to try your very best. I don't love meat.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Katie. I have to find other ways. I love eggs. You can have a little, small portion of nuts, because then you have to look at calories.
Yeah, well, that's my
course.
problem, man. I get headed. I me and the nuts. What is
Give
a
me a bag of
serving?
pistachios.
That's the
Yeah.
pistachios. But what's good about a pistachio? It's just I don't want the ones that have been shelled.
Look at, what are they doing? What are they eating? What are some little secrets? Like I would make eggs and then pour some egg whites in with
To make more.
the eggs, so
Yeah.
I have more protein.
Well,
with
otherwise,
that.
if I do a lot of macros, but then I go over on my fats a lot when I'm trying to do whole foods.
Yes,
more.
yes.
But I just do them. I mean, I eat a lot of them,
balance.
but I also just go, I'll take the whole avocado.
I'll take the whole avocado because it's just going to turn brown.
Yeah,
and it won't be.
I mean, I don't want to waste it.
Right, they're
the thing. So,
expensive. And what has worked for
oh
them?
yeah, those perfect aminos. You
Yes.
tried those? So I bought those. You can tell I'm like, sounds like a great
yeah.
idea. I'll go buy them. So it's probably a little impulsive. So I buy those things. You have to take 5.
Yeah.
So and those hurt when you swallow them.
Those are big
They're
pills.
horse pills.
So what about the drink blend?
I
you
haven't seen that.
I was
just
thinking
didn't
about
look
trying that. That's funny you said that about the perfect aminos. I had
because
patient tell me
Brecca's
about
doing
it.
a good job showing up on my Instagram.
The problem is the coating does not taste good.
on the
The
little,
perfect aminos.
the pills?
The pills.
they're huge.
They are big.
and there's like 5.
And
So I tell myself, I'm like, they don't really want me to take 5. And they're 3. And let's be
No, but
real,
maybe
they're
twice a
expensive.
day.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's what I mean. So it's back to what I said.
Yes.
When I said I was full before. I was taking so many things that I started probiotics with Pendulum, and then I was like, I came back every time I go to a longevity conference. I come back and I'm going like, legit, what are y'all taking? And I'll ask the people beside me. I'm like, I'm not telling you to tell me what you think is cool to tell me to take it. I'm asking you what you actually are putting in your
take.
mouth,
Yeah.
and how do you have time to do that? And then I don't like opening all the containers.
Oh yeah.
So I got these little. It's like a baby formula container.
Oh,
I got one of those, and I
okay.
dump the vitamins in there.
Okay.
And then you just spin it, open it, spin it, open it. Then I don't have to open up like 50.
Well, especially if you have aging hands.
Yeah.
With some CMC arthritis in
Oh,
your thumbs.
God, yeah.
I mean, try opening all those bottles. I mean, I've got some arthritis in my index, metacarpal, and it's like, oh man, that hurts if the lid's
That's
on
when
too
you just
tight
hold
and
the
stuff.
bottle and hope it gets in.
Yeah. Just put it under your arm.
What do you think about creatine?
So that's interesting that you brought that up. I've done a little bit of my own journey with creatine, and my sister and I actually had this conversation. I don't know, to tell you the truth.
They're trying to tell me it helps my head.
I don't know. I haven't done enough, it's that whole like, hey, oh, by the way, you're going to gain 5 pounds with this.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's
the thought of like
let's
getting
talk
on the
about
scale,
that. That is the thing.
And they're just like, oh, like
it's no big deal.
Oh,
yes, it is a big deal. Because what I look like fluffy is different if I put on a tank top. But I've been using these gummies.
Okay.
But it goes back to me trying to figure out, because if you're trying to use a collagen, you're using protein shake. And now I'm going to turn around and do another. Okay. I was using these little gummies and you chew them. They taste so sugary. Like, it's kind of funny. But I was like, good. I have to have these 2 sugary gummy things for my creatine. I don't really know. I think it all makes sense to me, like bringing
it does.
For performance and things, it makes sense. And if I was a professional athlete, it makes sense. But the scale has been pretty okay. And I've now been on, I guess it's been a couple months now.
Okay. That's a good amount of time.
So currently, I also will say this, the studies are coming out right now and how that affects women. And I also find that there's studies that come out, and then I want to watch the study of people. Like, like let me see how people are using this for a lot of times. The other thing that I found in longevity is there are a decent amount of folks that are using GLP-1s, not just for weight loss, but they're using it in longevity at microdoses. And if you're using those at microdoses, I think that those have a little bit of a diuretic type effect. Maybe even not diuresis, that it's actually causing diuresis, but there are definitely some things where folks are getting somewhat dehydrated with it. And so I'm like, well, if you're using a GLP-1 and even if it's microdosed, which I think are incredible products, by the way, but even if it's a microdose, so that's great for longevity, but maybe that's why somebody's not gaining the flu. And I don't, that's not science. That's Katie talk. That's just me on my thing of going, okay, well, you're decreasing other stuff. So even if you gain a little bit, you're still losing weight and you're not worried about the fluff the same. But I don't know. I just bring it all into the equation.
But this is what's so exciting.
Yeah.
Like, I love talking about this.
Yeah,
I love, just reading and finding out, because we're going to find out new things.
Well, the other thing is this stuff all costs a lot. I don't, Oprah might not think it does. Her personal chef is also there. Yeah. So I think it's worth it to me for my expenditures when I'm going to feel better, it's for my health. Yeah. I can justify that very easily. But after a while, I've got so many containers of stuff and I see all the things that you talked about. So if I go and do exactly all the things you talked about as far as the resistance training and walking appropriately, working on my motion, and then I'm not supporting it with the right nutrition or I'm not supporting it with the things that are going to genuinely make me feel better, then kind of what's the point, but figuring out which one of those are in what order that they should come.
Things happen, life happens. Aging parents, we have teenagers and going into college, we have that's just part of life.
You own a business.
I mean, you've got work, holy cow. So I think the biggest thing is just, number one, give yourself some grace too. Look at something, what's going to fit your life right now, and if you can just make a few little changes, tweak a few things. Number one, don't try to do everything at one time.
Good point.
Okay, so like, you're not going to go out and buy the 80 supplements and then you're going to join this gym and you're going to get a trainer and you're going to do, that's just overwhelming. Yeah. So I think there's a book named Atomic Habits, but it's just very much of like just little things each time, pick up, instead of that 5 pound weight, you're like, hey, maybe I can do, 6 reps with that 10 pound weight. That could be your change for the day. Yeah. Like, that's it. That could be your change for the next 2 weeks. And then you're going to look at your cardio and am I getting in some sprint training? These are things they don't cost a lot and they're pretty easy to weave in. And that also will really help decrease your chance of injury. Okay. Doing things very slowly, very steadily, but consistently. We're going back to that word being consistent.
You can't stop doing it for 3 weeks.
Correct.
Really, you're starting
and
back
then pick right back up.
Yeah, because really you're starting over if you're doing
Absolutely. And same with coming off an injury.
Yeah.
You come off an injury.
Oh, and then,
I'm just going to go run.
I'm just going to go back and run up and running.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, things like, hey, you're in the shower in the morning. Like, when's the last time you reached over your head to check your shoulder end range motion? Yeah. So when we go back to the adhesive capsulitis or the frozen shoulder, it's sneaky. It sneaks up on you. So find your end range of your shoulder motion. You're in that nice warm shower. You can stretch your arm overhead. You can reach to the top of the shower. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I can't even get my right arm up as high as my left arm. Okay, well now you need to work on that motion a little bit before it really does become a problem. You have plantar fasciitis issues. I've battled
so is that associated also with aging too?
Absolutely. Yeah, plantar fasciitis. Yeah. Again, it's that decreased estrogen affects our tissues. So adhesive capsulitis, plantar fasciitis, all the itises, tendinitis, tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis. It's all of these things, and it's the tissue.
I don't hear something from this. We all need to be working out with weights.
We need to be working out with weights.
And working on our motion.
And move, and have your social connections,
I do think our friends can positively and negatively affect us when it comes to movement.
Absolutely.
For sure.
There's no doubt about it.
When your friend says, you just need to stop moving right now because you're hurt. Whereas my other friends are like, well, you could go to the pool. Yeah. You're injured. You're about to lose your mind because they know themselves. But doesn't that make a difference on who your friends are?
It really does.
Or your family even. But
does.
If they're saying here, I'm going to help you go move. Yes. You're not able to do this right now.
But let's come up with something you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you sit in a chair? Are you healing from, a foot injury? But can you sit in a chair and lift weights versus stand and lift weights, So
getting up out of chairs. You had said something earlier. And I don't even think about that at all until you watch enough people that you call up to get up off that chair. And you start to realize how many people utilize those side armrests because they don't have the strength to push themselves out of the chair.
That quad strength.
That's huge. So they talk about this currently. That's what they're saying with longevity is how important the quad strength is.
These big muscles.
But I think that's one of the biggest things because otherwise, I see people try to slide to the edge, but then it's still, if they don't have that push, you got to be able to do it. Like, how do you get up and off the toilet?
And then you have that issue, the grab bars and the homes and things like that. But could we do something to prevent having to have someone pull us out of a chair? That's why I go back to this. Hey, stand up from your chair 5 times every hour.
Don't stop that. Yeah.
Just to keep those muscles. Do 10 air squats.
Yeah.
And you're going to laugh. I mean, it's just funny, but I'll do air squats when I'm brushing my teeth.
I get that.
I mean, that's just body weight.
I'm also, because, I want to eat a little. But it's also the part where you're saying, it's because in a workout, we only have so much time also. And I think some of that, like when you're talking about the body weight, but it's also the movement too. There are, for people who've never done anything, there are programs definitely. I think like the YMCA, there's like the silver sneakers.
Definitely.
If you've never done any of that
and that
stuff.
Doesn't cost it. I mean, very often the insurance covers it.
I thought there's something like that. So for anybody that was kind of thinking, I mean, that's, even if you show up to a class and you march in place at a gym, you find a gym that's local to you and you march in place while the class is going on. All you do is march in place the entire time. Truthfully, I may not be satisfied with that, right? You may not be satisfied with that, but you've got the social interaction, you get accountability. Because
exercise, I love.
Me too.
Getting somebody to a place where they can exercise. It's one of the most rewarding and satisfying things. I want everyone to feel that this is not just for an elite group. This is just for athletes. This is for everyone, no matter what age you are, too. I mean, everyone can do something. It's finding the resources and not being embarrassed too, I think.
Kind of like you were when you said you were 19. And then you guys are 19. You can feel the same way.
When you're 55.
Yeah, that's it. You can feel like that at 55, 65, 70, and you go, well, what do I do at the gym? Like, I walk into this thing and it looks intimidating at first, or you find somewhere with classes first.
Yeah,
and you
start in your house.
just walk and go, like you said, on your house, you can definitely do it.
Start in your house.
You can
Nobody's
marketplace.
watching you. You know, you
get some dumbbells from any Target,
resistance
Walmart,
bands.
Dick's, Sporting Goods, like any of them. This is awesome.
Thanks,
like, I
Katie.
feel like, again, speaking to all people, but my focus is primarily on the aging woman. And I just think, like, sometimes we kind of know what to do, but there's so much research coming out. Like you said, it's an exciting time to be a woman. And there are some real advocates right now. I would say, like, even over this last 6 months to a year, the advocacy for women in health is increasing. The only reason why I'm hearing people mad about the past study is because you're aware of it now, because now they're talking about it. So you can keep being pissed about it, or we can all kind of rally together and go, let's go forward. And
Embrace this
it's not
new
to forget
stuff.
the history and study of men's health too, because that affects us as well. Look at me. I'm like, how selfish, because that affects us. But in general, I think it is, like you said, again, it's an exciting time because there's so much research going on. Longevity medicine as a whole, you talked about earlier, not just about living longer, but while we're here on this earth, how do we feel our best, move our best, like all the things that are involved with that. What can we do about to prepare for that for the future? Not to be fearful of it, but just to do what we can. And there is a difference on the people that are going to choose to midlife do something. But if you
can make changes. Again, the changes are not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
If you push your body too fast, you will have an injury. So, you're in this for the long haul.
True.
Keep that mindset, knowing that consistency. I'm in this for the long haul. This takes time. Collagen fibers. Our bodies have to adapt, especially as we age. It's going to take a little bit longer. And please, you can recover from injuries. Find the people that support you recovering from these injuries, and don't let it sideline you longer than it needs to. And even while you're sidelined, there's things that you can do to work through these things. But I love all this stuff so much.
Well, I appreciate you showing up and sharing with us. How do they contact you? So you own Gainesville Physical Therapy with some others. I think they have an Instagram.
Yes, we have Gainesville Physical Therapy. And then we are at 1296 Sim Street, Suite A. We're in Gainesville.
Gainesville, Georgia.
Gainesville, Georgia. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. My email is kbasinger, KBASINGER @GainesvillePT.com. So thank you all for listening, and thank you, Katie. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I have so much admiration for you and just
thank you guys, everybody, for joining us on Feeling Good Naked, and until next time.